We are working with a very bare background, but this is the best I could do for today, and I'm trying to follow my own rule: make it exist first, and you can make it better later. So let's start today with bracing the cringe of talking on the internet and talk about how the good life, a fulfilled life, a life that satisfies you, is actually inconvenient. This is something that I keep realizing over and over again in my everyday life, or when I look back at my past, or when I observe people around me, my friends, my family. Having solid basis in life, in a way of being healthy, having money, having the skills, prospects, hopes for the future, and all of that, and relationships with others, requires us to inconvenience ourselves. So, taking a walk instead of taking a cab, or using public transport instead of using a taxi, cooking for yourself instead of having every meal delivered or buying a ready meal, exercising instead of staying on the couch, learning new things, embracing the cringe, embracing the really uncomfortable feeling of not being good at something that doesn't come easy to us. There are so many things that I am not good at, and yet I am bracing myself to push through that discomfort, and it is paying off later on. And when I take this theme, this concept of good life being inconvenient, it also allows me a little bit more introspection of myself, a little bit of more auditing of my own life. What inconveniences, hard choices I am avoiding that I know will make my life better. Now, I'm fortunate enough that I am in a long habit of exercising, cooking for myself, and covering my bases when it comes to healthy life. However, one thing that I'm also doing on this channel is music. I want to stop saying that I want to make music or perform music and actually doing it, making music instead of wanting to make music. And the hard choice is that I have to learn how to play the piano. This is the instrument that I have. It's a MIDI keyboard. And I know that there are so many convenient ways that I can make music without learning an instrument, but I know it won't be enough. It won't allow me that kind of flow of composing, of knowing the scales, of knowing arrangements and all of that, because convenience is always someone else doing the work for me. And how can I create something original and that comes from me when I rely on logic loops or some programmed, I think I have programmed drummer. My computer is way too old for the newest logic update, so I don't have other like AI musicians. So this is kind of pushing me, because I can't afford a new computer right now, it is pushing me to develop skills that I know will be beneficial later. And it is inconvenient, it is hard. Sometimes I'm discouraged, I want to distract myself from that discomfort. But I know that on the other side of it is an easier flow, easier work. And so I keep thinking about it in a way of what the future me 2 hours from now, tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years from now will want to know how to do or want to have, that the current me is resisting because I want to be lazy, I want to procrastinate, I am too much in my head because of some insecurities and so on. And that brings me to one of the overarching themes that I'm trying to deliver here, which is that you have to be a good ancestor to yourself first. So in general, I want to be a good ancestor to the world, to the generations coming after me, to people already here, obviously, that are younger. I want to share my advice, what I learned, hoping to build a better world, help you, I don't know, maybe realize some things, share my knowledge and what I've learned throughout everything I've been through. But you always have to start with you. So you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of somebody else, because obviously you can take care of other people, but how long can you be doing that if you abandon yourself? So be a good ancestor to yourself. So what is the future me want to have? What will make her life better, easier, more convenient, that current me wants to procrastinate on, feels a bit lazy about, and so on. And so one thing is, for example, practicing public speaking like this, talking to camera, recording a podcast. I guess you can call this a podcast, right? Or a video essay? I don't know. But talking to others on the internet is something that I have wanted to do for so long. And I kept letting my future me, my current me, down. I'm looking in the past and it's like, why didn't you start earlier? And it's the same again with playing an instrument. I know that being a good ancestor to myself also means getting a good night's sleep instead of getting that dopamine hit of watching a TV series or scrolling through social media. It is exercising at least a few times a week. I try to do it almost every day, which again isn't that big of a struggle anymore because I built that habit for about 20 years since I was in school. But there are days when I completely don't want to do that. And I know that tomorrow, if I don't exercise today or move in some way, I will be feeling bad. And I understand, I want to acknowledge that life is hard. I am not in ideal circumstances, wasn't born into them, and the more I compare myself to others, the more resentful I can become. However, that does nothing for me. That doesn't push me forward, it makes me miserable. And so I always want to ask myself, when I'm acting as a consumer of life instead of a builder of life, right? So how much content, how much comparison am I consuming with TV, with social media, with my friends whose circumstances are better than mine, with the news, with all the different kind of little wars that are spread in society, with, you know, men versus women, young versus old, white versus black, straight versus gay. All of that, I acknowledge that it exists. However, in a way, you have to focus on yourself. And I am not an advocate for hyper-individualism. I think we should be building communities, villages. I am a proud villager for a lot of my friends, as much as I can. But also, it is important to be independent. And this is what convenience takes away from you. Being independent, because you don't develop the skills to sustain yourself, to cook for yourself healthily, to move, and to know what to do. And so I am trying to create more than I consume, which isn't easy. But again, being good ancestor to myself will probably benefit me in some time. I will let you know. Let's do an audit in like 6 months and see how it goes. And so when we talk about inconvenience, how we can, through inconvenience, build a good life, that means embracing the discomfort, the cringe. So again, as I said before, having a good night's sleep, eating a healthy diet. In general, I think a healthy life has 4 core pillars, and that is good sleep, healthy diet, what you eat and drink, and what you don't eat and don't drink, exercise, some sort of movement, and stress management. And stress management can have so many different forms. That can be therapy, which I am a strong advocate for. I've been in therapy for a few years and it has absolutely changed my life. That is going into nature, which is a combination of also exercising, going for a walk or a hike, getting that greenery, airing your brain basically. That can be meditation, some sort of stress relief. That can be creating, again, music for me. That can be something that is soothing to your soul, that you can take the world away from yourself for a moment and just rest. And it is inconvenient because we want to just be a little bit mindless sometimes, a little bit lazy, because again, life is hard in general. But this 4 pillars, if you have solid bases there, that will lead you to have a good life, to have a healthy life for as long as possible. And unfortunately, the bit of it all is that if you avoid something that you know will make your life better for too long, it's going to get worse. So if you are too lazy of exercising, you will pay that tax later on. I remember 2 years ago I had a surgery and I couldn't exercise for 6 weeks. I felt so crap. I felt so out of shape. I felt so weak that I knew I had to get back into it. And obviously I couldn't get back into it at the level that I was in. I had to start as a beginner yet again, and I was just so frustrated with that. But that period of time really showed me, this was the longest period of time when I didn't exercise. And again, 20 something years probably. But I know that it accumulates. Same if I have busy time in life and I forgo cooking for myself and just rely on some ready meals or going out to restaurants. First of all, I'm not eating healthily and my body pays for it because your gut really informs how your brain feels. Like it really can do a number on your mental health as well, unhealthy diet. But also my wallet wasn't happy about it, and that caused me a lot of stress because, oh my god, I spent so much money on things that I knew I could do myself in a healthy way. And so avoiding hard choices today can really spiral and snowball into making things much, much worse. Maybe also because sometimes when we don't solve our problems or actively take steps to solve our problems, we tend to expand in our head to be this enormous beast that there is just no way we can tackle now. I've experienced that as well plenty of times because I moved countries, I think 5 or 6 times so far in my life. And there is a lot of bureaucracy involved with that. And so, yeah, sometimes I would put something off and it grew to a point where I had to submit double the amount of documents that I would have had to if I just was on top of it from the very beginning when the problem arose. And all of that brings me to the point of kind of a cliche one, that it is all about finding balance. It is also get away from jail card in a meeting, in a corporate meeting that you zoned out of. And when someone asks you, well, what do you think about it? And you say, well, it's all about finding balance. And you get like nods all around the table. So thank me later in case you end up in hot water like that. But it is about finding balance. There are conveniences that exist that will make your life better from time to time. And I'm not saying never use a cab, for example, in a city that has decent public transport. But obviously, if you are going hammered after a night out and your home is far away, do take that cab once in a while. But don't bankrupt yourself over it. There is a difference between discipline and self-punishment. So discipline, for me, should come from self-love, from being that good ancestor to yourself, that what can I do today to make my life easier in the future, better in the future, less stressful in the future. And self-punishment is about not a very good relationship with yourself. Maybe it stems from the way you were brought up, like I was. And again, this is something that I realized after a few years of therapy. Self-punishment as in that you don't deserve to feel good at all, that there is some sort of punishment coming for your happiness, that your happiness cannot last forever. And happiness, for me, it is kind of a fleeting emotion. I try to focus rather on fulfillment and satisfaction because they are long lasting and they are what you look at when you look back at your life. That is the evidence that you've built a fulfilled life. You feel good about yourself. Happiness is in the moment. Happiness for me is joy. Ideally shared with others, because again, I'm not an advocate for hyper-individualism and loneliness. But self-punishment comes when you kind of focus more on others than yourself, right? It is the other voices in your head that are not doing you any favors, that kind of work to your disadvantage. And so discipline should come from you, from this source, from our essence. I don't know what to call it. It should be for you, not for anyone else. You don't have to be disciplined in order to show off to someone else, right? So, oh, look how great I am and blah, blah. That is centering others in your life, and that will lead you nowhere because people can leave. And that brings me to the feeling of cringe. I am cringe, but I am free is the saying that I've seen a few times. And I think that is great. So I think the feeling of cringe, of a little bit of embarrassment, right? It is protecting us from social isolation, from complete isolation. I think being a little bit embarrassed, a little bit ashamed of doing bad things is good for humanity. It is pro-social. But doing things that you enjoy, doing things for yourself to make your life better should discredit the feeling of cringe, right? Oh, people will judge you. Okay, people can leave. Again, and that's why building life, the good life, is inconvenient, because you always have to remember, unfortunately, that material things, money, anything you possess, comes and goes, and so do people. I have lost family members, I have lost friends, relationships, and all of that. But you build your life for yourself, and the right people will come. I've, again, lost dear, long-lasting friendships, but I made new ones that are lasting long again. So you will find your people, but you have to stop feeling cringe. And I think that's because feeling cringe, feeling that you will look stupid to others, is really holding you back from realizing your full potential. Again, make it exist first. You can make it better later. I love watching YouTube channels that still have their whole library up. I really don't like when there are some YouTubers who have been going at it for years and years, if not over a decade, and then they delete their old videos because they don't fit their current aesthetic, and then their whole channel looks like it has been perfect from the beginning. I think it's so disingenuous, it's so annoying, because I want to get inspired that I also can try different things, be bad in the beginning. So for example, and she is one of my favorite musicians and YouTubers, Dodie. I love her channels because she just kept everything, and you can go back to her being a teenager and see that, yeah, she tried like everyone else, and she built a beautiful career for herself, and her music is absolutely amazing. And I've seen her and her band Fizz live, and it was one of the best concerts I've been at. But this is so inspiring for me, even though I think we are the same age. Anyway, she has 15 years of doing it on the internet ahead of me, obviously. But she left it there, that, this is my story. I'm proud of it. I am not ashamed of it. And so, yeah, feeling cringe that what I'm putting out right now, of what you want to do in whatever it is, that you want to start cooking or trying a new thing, it will be holding you back, because what is life if not experience? And so you can't stop feeling like you will look stupid, stopping you, holding you back from experiencing, learning new things, learning from that experience and developing as a person. And again, another cliche that I have for this episode, I guess, is what is worse, failing or never trying, right? Because never trying is a failure of much greater magnitude than trying something and it failing, even though you did everything right, or it failing because you actually realized, you learned from that experience that it is not for you. So do try. as much as possible. F around and find out, literally. Do it safely, of course. Don't take unnecessary risks, but do take some. Our brains like certainty, and that's why uncertainty feels so threatening, because we don't know what's waiting on the other side, and that's why we are a little bit complacent sometimes, and we follow the script that society gave us what good life means. But as we see all around us in the news and the way a lot of Western countries are dealing right now, how they are coping, is that this strategy, this script we were giving, is actually failing. Because again, for example, state pensions, they are a convenience for people after they retire. It is a convenience mechanism built by the state. And again, I am all for it, but it is failing. Somewhere there is always a cost to the convenience. And lucky for the elderly generation right now, it is not them paying that cost, it is us. But that is a convenience mechanism that the states implemented, that made people complacent, that made people a little bit lazy, that they don't have to figure out their retirement plan for themselves, that they don't have to plan for the future as much, that there will be the state that will take care of them. And yeah, I think that millennials and younger, and some millennials are in the 40s, so keep forgetting about it. We keep talking about them as if they are, around my age. But yeah, millennials and younger, we are realizing that we don't have the state pension. That probably will never exist. We will never reach the retirement age, and so on. And so we really need to think about planning for our future with a lot of with seriousness. And all the generations didn't have to do that. And so if the pension system were to collapse right now, it will be a complete disaster. But also the system cannot function as is. For the record, I also think that the taxes are way too high. I'm not against taxes, but I am against state taking so much of our money, of our paychecks, because again, that takes away my autonomy, my decision-making skill of what to do with my money, where to save, where to invest. They just let me get that for you and I will decide for you. Delegate that responsibility for your future to me. And that is leading us to a black hole. And so with all of that uncertainty that exists in life, because nothing is ever sure, how do you move forward? And I would say you move forward while scared. That's what I do every single time. I am terribly scared right now that this is going to be a major flop. And and I don't know, I am embarrassing myself, and this isn't going anywhere. But to be fair, again, I am making it exist for the sake of it, for the practice, for the discomfort, that maybe there is reaching out a hand, that maybe there is someone who will appreciate it. And so do it scared. Think about it, strategize a little bit, but don't overthink it too much, because again, if you overthink, it will grow to an enormous problem that you will have no idea how to move forward. And now everything, as I said, has a cost. Convenience has a lot of cost in lost money, in lost skill, in lost competence, in lost health. But there is also obviously a cost to that discomfort. The cost of that discomfort is that you might be lonely for a long time. There is this saying, again, a bit of cliche, it's lonely at the top. And I say that is not true. It's not lonely at the top. The way to the top is lonely. Because people say it's lonely at the top because you left behind people who didn't want to follow you there. And that creates loneliness on top. There's plenty of people at the top, okay, that you can build relationships with. The road there is hard because there are people who, again, are so used to convenience that they don't want to see you doing the inconvenient thing and that being beneficial. People who, splash money all around them, and they then end up being a little bit broke or stressed about money, whereas you chose the inconvenient way of, again, for example, taking the public transport or walking somewhere instead of taking public transport, and you don't have to stress about money that much. That's, again, one of my stories with a friend of mine who earned much more than I did. And yet she was always stressed about money because she kept spending it on silly things. You honestly don't need 12 different sweaters. Okay, I'm sorry. But I digress. That loneliness will always show up with people who don't actually wish you well, I think. So if you grow and you notice that you are outgrowing your friends, those friends might try to pulling you back. And that is a very difficult dynamic to navigate because, for example, you've known each other for a very long time, and so you feel kind of guilty of leaving them, but also you're not living for them. Are they as concerned about you as you are for them? Outgrowing friends is a part of life because you became friends, especially if you are childhood friends. You became friends by proximity, by convenience of your parents' relationships or at school and so on. That doesn't mean that they are meant forever. It's okay to let relationships pass. It doesn't make them any less valuable than they were. But I also want to stop defining success as something that lasts into perpetuity, that lasts forever. Success can be a short-term goal that you had or a short relationship that taught you a lot, that benefited you a lot, and then it ran its course. Doesn't mean that it wasn't valuable. And again, that brings me to the theme of being a good ancestor to yourself. This is how you continue, you stay committed when there is no one around supporting you, or if people have lesser goals than you. So, for example, most of my friends exercise just as I do, but they do it once a week, and I want to be doing it a lot more. And so you have to stay committed to that, even though around you there is no people doing that with you so much. Or if you want to build your own business and all of your other friends are employed, that is also hard. And so you need to reach out to others in order to stay committed. I think the internet is a great place to do that. Internet is not all evil. It is a brilliant place to find inspiration, to find support with content creators, maybe like me, so please subscribe. But sometimes you need a role model. And if you are doing something that nobody in your family or friends did before, you need to find that role model outside. And that is why internet can be a great source of inspiration, as long as it is an inspiration that makes you feel good and improves you on what you're already doing, instead of working to your detriment when you compare yourself to others and then you stop because you are not as good as them. Again, a lot of people on the internet had decades more experience than I have at the beginning of my journey, and this is the kind of discomfort and cringe that I have to face, but I take inspiration from them instead of comparison. And I think that comes with age and a lot of internal processing and therapy. But inspiration versus comparison is such an important concept to acknowledge, to know that inspiration brings you momentum, gives you the power, the fuel to continue and improve, whereas comparison can bring you down, make you feel resentful, make you feel not enough. And I had a thought there that I was going with, and now I forgot. Okay, let's continue. Maybe it will come and I will update you in like a shorts or something. And so that obviously, on this journey of making a good life for myself, for yourself, it is that there are a lot of things to unlearn as much as to learn. So disputing your own beliefs about what makes a good life, because we are raised in a specific society that tells you that the recipe for a good life is to go to university. Do go to university, please. Education is important, but it is to work for someone else, get married to a man, have children, and that's it, and have a house. There are so many, especially if you live in big cities, those are quite harsh backgrounds to place yourself against. That brings out a lot of comparisons that again work to your detriment. So you need to unlearn what good life means and learn what it means for you. So that means putting everything else that people put in your head, consciously or unconsciously, of what it means to have a good life, and deciding that for yourself. And again, that is something that you have to work with discomfort for. So look critically at your life and your parents' life. Were they successful in your terms? Were they happy with their life or not? And so you decide, maybe everyone is going to live in the city and experiencing that big city life, all the flashing lights and nighttime and all of that, and living for the prestige of it and stressing out about finances, because big cities are very, very expensive right now, but it looks good for others. Or and again, this is something that I've done. I currently live in London and I'm planning my escape, because to me, again, good life means lesser living costs, so that I can save money for something that is important to me, which, for example, is my health, or experiences, or just living peacefully and not having to worry about money. So unlearning is as important as learning. Disputing what you have in your head, what beliefs were put there. And that kind of circles back to the point of what your life will look like if you always follow convenience, right? If you always take the car instead of walking, if you always just watch TV and get that constant stimulation for your brain because that feels good and you don't have to do any thinking, instead of just sitting with yourself for an hour looking critically at your life. If you follow convenience at every opportunity, you'll be broke, you'll probably be in debt to someone else, you will be sick, and you will be stupid. And you will always be dependent on others. You will be dependent on your employer or other employers who want to exploit you for your labor and not pay you fairly. You will be dependent on your state. And again, I think basic state necessities should be provided for citizens. But where are we now? Okay. So you have to think strategically. Sorry, English is not my first language. But building your own independence as much as you can is important. And again, I don't mean that means that you dehumanize others. It means that you are conscious that you are the only person that is with you always until the end, and you have to take care of that. And so if good life is so inconvenient, why is it still worth it? And I think it's worth it because it saves you from stress. If you have good life that you are satisfied with, that fulfills you, you don't give in to pressure as easily, you don't let others exploit you as easily, and you don't get tangled up in other people's messes that you might not have a say in, or you will not be appreciated when stepping in. So maybe a practical pointer of what to do. Think of to yourself, that is something that I try to do. What is that one inconvenient thing that I can do today or this week to build a better life for myself? For me, that's always chores. Cooking is a chore for me. So feeding myself some healthy food, some healthy diet. It is exercising. It is putting myself out there, because why not? How else am I going to build confidence when speaking to others? It is making conscious decisions about your money. It is evaluating your relationships in life with your family, with your friends, with your partner. Your pet's not so much. Your pet is your pet, but and your child is your child if you have children. But it is constantly questioning. It is constantly. I'm not going to say optimizing. That is a cursed word, but it is evaluating whether it is serving me, if it's making me feel better, if it has benefits for my future. And those benefits are a rainbow of anything that you value. It is according to your values, not just money and save time. And so you honestly need to start being a good ancestor to yourself so that you can be a role model for other people in your life or in the world, and stop choosing comfort over growth, over building something that will be solid. Have that difficult conversation, make that difficult move, ask the difficult question, put your body at a discomfort at the gym or go for a walk or whatever, put your phone down. It is all worth it. I think convenience will be the death of you. It will make you dependent. I'm making it such a bad word, but you want to belong to yourself, and that means being independent. So go be a good ancestor, and I will try to be a good ancestor to myself and edit it semi-decently and put it out. And I will see you in my next yapping session.